Welcome back to the World Championship Series, everybody. We are live once again in Cologne, Germany, the beautiful city of Cologne, Germany. And joining me on the desk this time, as always, we have Sam, also known as Bling, and to his left, we have Jared, also known as X5 Pig. Welcome back, boys.
Hey, it's great to be here again. We've got another cool day, a bunch of Zergs, a bunch of Protosses, and we're going to find out. Last couple of slots going through to Poland.
Last couple of slots, that's right. We have 4 players or 4 positions open over the next couple of days. But before we jump and look at that, let's take a closer look at the tournament format. For some of you, the World Championship Series has been happening over the last couple of seasons, but we're nearing the end as the round of 32 only has 2 groups remaining, G and H, before moving through to the season finals in a couple of weeks, where we'll go and play with the 16 best players in Season 3 of the Premier League, where we'll crown eventually the Season 3 champion. Joining the likes of Poulton Hydra, I guess Poldra makes sense. Joining the likes of Poldra from Season 1 and Season 2. But it's not only about moving forward to Poland, there is also, of course, a lot of prestige on the line for these players. And it's going to be a great event once we finally get over to Poland, where we will eventually crown that champion. But there's also prize money on the line, a lot of prize money. We talked about it yesterday, $217,000 per season. That's so much money. And each one of these players that have made it to the Premier League bank themselves $4,500. If you are a winner from the round of 32, you get $6,000, and it continues to increase up. But the backbone of the WCS is where it really matters. It's the point system. Of course, let's take a look at that, because we have 4 players who are spread out a lot today when we look at it. We have Snoot, who is the highest ranked player, come into play today, with Jim and Laser and Hitman. Not so much those back-end 3 players thinking about the global finals, but Snoot, absolutely. And that leads us to the round of 32 itself. As mentioned, we've played 6 groups with only 2 remaining. Here are the players that have gone through so far. Polk, Petraeus, Hydra Elfie, Jadong Sen, Marine Lord Igers, Kung Fu Panda Lobo. Yesterday was 4GG Zanster, and we have a good set of players remaining. Jared, a great set of players gone through.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's been not too many upsets just yet. There's been a lot of players that have kind of given a really good show, a lot of newcomers coming up and almost breaking through. And I think the last couple of spots are really important. I mean, we've got a Polish player today we'll be talking about later, and everyone wants to get to those season finals. Like this year with the WCS season finals coming back, you know you're going to be playing in front of a big audience. It's just one of the most important things for a StarCraft player to get up there on that stage, and it's all these players' dreams.
Yeah, I mean, we've so far with the 12 players that we have got 5 Zerg through, 4 Terran, and just 3 Protoss have qualified for the season final so far, Sam.
Yeah, a bit of a change from the previous seasons, I've got to say. That might be due down to the map pool, or it just might be because a lot of Protoss players are retiring. I don't know, including myself. But a lot of the Terran and Zergs have been stepping up their game because they were struggling in the previous seasons. So maybe it's down to that, maybe it isn't. Who knows?
Well, it leads us to today, where we have a fight between Protoss and Zerg. And an interesting group. We have 2 experienced players of the WCS going against 2 newcomers per se. Of course, the Lasers played for the second time, but more importantly, for a lot of people at home, we get to reveal Hitman. Let's take a closer look at today's group. And as mentioned, 2 very, very well-adversed players in the World Championship Series in Snoot and Jim go toe-to-toe with a Laser who's been making waves in the scene, and of course, Hitman. An interesting group today, Sam.
Yeah, it's an interesting group because obviously we've got Jim, we've got Snoot, the big kind of crowd favourites, we've got a Laser, an up-and-coming player, and then we've got Hitman, who everyone's kind of talking about because they don't really know too much about him. So is he going to make a splash? Is he going to go out straight away? Is he going to kind of perform and shock us all? Who knows?
Well, what are you thinking about when you look at this group and the set of players that we have today?
You know, like you said, there's those 2 veteran players, but both of them haven't had the best time lately. It's not like they're in massive slumps, but for Jim, you know, there's some, you know, hasn't been performing in the last year outside of China. He's still, you know, winning championships there, but he used to be this real hero, 2014, 2013. So he's looking to kind of get back up there. Snoot had a rough season last season going out early. So you've got two veterans who are kind of looking to make sure they can establish, where I'm still at that level. But then you've got these newcomers who are looking to really try and steal it away from them.
Yeah, we'll definitely talk more about the newcomers when we get round to their match. They will be going head-to-head very shortly. But that leads us to the first matchup that we have, which I'm very excited about. I think a lot of people are. It's a great starting match today. It's Snoot versus Jim, and we can start talking about Jim straight away. You already brought a little bit about him, but we know Jim. He's been around for a long time in the system, and he's such an aggressive and just a very typical Chinese playstyle player.
He's very similar to Haas in the way that he's going to be aggressive, but what is he going to do? Jim's kind of had, I guess, not the best run in the previous seasons. He has made a few round of 16s here and there, but he hasn't had too deep runs as of late. So this time around, he's definitely going to try and prove himself and kind of make that name for himself that he is the #1 Chinese player.
Yeah, and if China is going to have a mark in the World Championship Series, this is the player to do it, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you look at his past results last year, it was an IEM event where he came through, got top 4, beating players like Tasia and Life, two of the best players in the world at that time. He's had performances like that before, and he's kind of skimmed by it in WCS. But in WCS, the last time he achieved that level of a result was back in early 2013. He got, I believe, 5th place in WCS America. Since then, he hasn't quite been able to get that same level of consistency. So I think for him, he's feeling this kind of urge to get those performances going again. He's had a lot of his runs over the past 12 months cut short. And a lot of people in the Chinese scene are kind of talking about it and saying, can he get over this? He's still doing well at home, but he's just not quite performing overseas. Like, when's he going to show us that spark again?
In a very, very similar way is talking about consistency. Snoot has likewise struggled with that in the World Championship Series. He's has ups, he's had downs, and that leads us to talk a little bit about him. He's back for another season after a disappointing season 2.
Yeah, and I feel like that's definitely hit Snoot a lot harder than it's probably hit Jim. Snoot's been very vocal about how he's been in a slump lately. His motivation's kind of dropped a little bit because of that. But as of late, he has been practicing hard, and he's made it through to the round of 32 very convincingly, might I add. He did beat Cyril 3-0. And yeah, he's definitely back, and he's definitely a force to be reckoned with.
The protector of the WCS, the protector of the Europe region, the defender of the WCS, Jared. I mean, everyone always looking towards Snoot, and with his teammate Bunny now being eliminated, of course you saw Lilbo go through, a lot of people have turned their attention back to Snoot as they originally did at the start of the year.
Yeah, he's got such history behind him. I mean, 2014, the European scene was so competitive, but this guy stood out as undoubtedly the best non-Korean player. And this year, people were looking to him. They say he's got another good shot at BlizzCon. And not just that, but his general performances, like, he wants to keep on doing that. I think last year he had 7 or 8 top 8 performances in Premier League tournaments, which is absolutely incredible when you look at the players he beat to do that. So I think he's wanting to kind of just say, I'm still that monster, I'm still that guy. I can wipe the floor with these guys, I can go through to Poland, and I've still got that shot at BlizzCon this year.
Well, how the hell do they shape up with each other now then? I mean, we know Jim's style, we know what Snoot likes to do and how he's been ripped away from Swarm hosts.
Snoot in the past was always, before the Swarm host nerf, that is, he was always a very defensive player in ZVP, and he could defend pretty much anything. So he's had a lot of practice against those aggressive styles,
right.
And going into this, I don't think he's going to kind of forget about all that practice he put into it. So I think he's going to probably feel pretty comfortable going up against Jim.
All right, well, let's look at the maps then. So, of course, still a best of 3 at this stage of the tournament. We don't go to best of 5 until we reach the top 8, the single elimination part. And we have Coda, Iron Fortress, and Terraform. Don't talk too much about Coda, but Iron Fortress and Terraform, are these type of maps that Snoot's worried or comfortable on?
So an odd choice for Jim choosing Iron Fortress, because the third base is very spread apart. But we talked about how Jim's an aggressive player, and it's very hard for the Zerg player to find a stable opening to secure their own third. So I know in the past Snoot's talked about this map saying, it can feel great in the mid game, but sometimes getting there can be a little bit awkward. So that may be a scary opening phase on Iron Fortress for Snoot. Might be where Jim's looking to make something happen.
But the first map here, Coda, is a comfortable best of 3 map to begin on, right? This is a map that they've both played tons and tons and tons and tons of games on. It's a perfect starting map.
Yeah, it is a perfect starting map. But one thing to note about Snoot on this map in particular, I've seen him play on it a few times. I actually played on him against it at Gfinity not that long ago. And he doesn't actually like to sit back on that map. He likes to play an aggressive, low econ style for some reason. And that can catch Protoss opponents off guard. But against a player like Jim, who has that aggressive style, it might not shape up too well.
All right, your thoughts on this map as well then?
I absolutely agree. You know, it's one of these maps where it's a very standard layout, but we saw it in Shenzhen as well, where Snoot had those amazing wins over Classic and Reign, the GSL and SSL champion, and he did it with aggressive styles on this map. So a lot of fast speedling rushes trying to shut down the third base of Protoss, catch those sentries in the open. Lots of aggression is what Snoot's shown, but I really can't say whether or not he's going to change it up against Jim, who's such an aggressive opponent.
Do you look at this matchup we're about to jump into as a battle for first place in essence, because they're so strong and they're the favourites of the group, or not?
I think on paper it's got to be, but in my opinion, Alazer's a very strong opponent, and I wouldn't count him out. I rate him very highly, and like we said before, we don't know too much about Hitman, but yes, on paper, it probably is the battle for first place.
All right, time for the predictions, boys. Jared, start us off. Who's going to win this and why?
Snoot's looked great recently. I think his trip to Korea invigorated him. I think he's going to win 2-1.
I'm going to agree with the Snoot victory, and I think 2-0.
All right, there we go. We got Snoot all around here on the analysis desk. Let's find out what the commentators think. Of course, it's the classic combo, Todd and Claris.
That's right. Thank you very much. Time to find out if one of the non-Korean hopes can put himself in a good spot here in Season 3. For Snoot, WCS has been a weird and rocky road. Sometimes he's gone up to the very, very highest heights, but then sometimes just kind of crashes and burns. Is this the season, though, where he's able to make his stand and go far?
I think there's definitely the potential for it, but at the same time, he's definitely a lot more low profile as of late than the one guy that was considered undoubtedly the best foreigner at the time a while back. So it's definitely one of the good ways here. He could come back and try and, I guess, regain some of his old form in regards of that. And it's going to be interesting to see him clashing against someone he probably doesn't have too much information against here in Gym.
Yep, that's for sure. Likewise, Hitman on the other side. You know, the Protosses here that we have in this group, quite the wild cards to say the least, as we do get into game number 1 here between Snoot and Jim on Coda. Figure out who is going to be moving on to the winners match, as we have spawning up to the top left-hand corner, representing Invictus Gaming, it is Jim. And down to the bottom right-hand corner, we have our red Zerg. Representing Team Liquid, it is Snoot. Looking oh so powerful off the back of his Shenzhen victories against the Protoss that he had there. That was quite the result, to say the least.
Yeah, definitely. Snoot is someone that has been trying to rework his style, I think, against Protoss a lot as well. And I got the fortune, I guess for my casting, but misfortune for my ladder points to meet him a few times not too long ago in ladder. And there is this one build that he did twice where if you go into a third base as Protoss kind of, you know, passively, or you don't try to be super aggressive with it, and then he's on 3 bases, he will pump out a lot of Hydralisks and Zerglings, go into a few Mutas to kind of make you believe that it's going to be a Mutalisk transition, but then goes right back into Hydralisks with upgrades out of one single evolution chamber with a +2 missile. And then he hits the timing with a lot of Hydralisks that killed me both times in my case. So I really wonder if he's planning here to use a similar build against Jim. And first of all, I guess it's probably going to come down to whether Jim wants to play very, very aggressive himself, because obviously, like, you can't reach, you know, necessarily that composition here from Snoot.
Yep.
If the Protoss is 7 gating you, you need to focus on defending that first.
Well, that's what we come to expect from Jim at the moment. He's going to start things off with the Nexus first, and then from there, that will propel his economy very, very far forwards to then stage what is normally kind of 2 base styles from Jim. Is there really going to be any deviation, do you think, from Jim going up against someone like Snoot? Or?
I wouldn't say Jim is one of those guys that do those as much 2-base as, say, for example, like a Haz or even like all of these guys. You know, like there is different classes of cheesy Protoss. As funny as it sounds, you know, there is like the level, you know, let's say it's from 0 to 10. Like the level 10 cheesy Protoss will like never go up to more than 44 probes. It's always going to be a 7-gate or an Immortal all-in or like DTs into Blink all-in, whichever one. Jim, I would rate definitely as something like maybe like, I don't know, 6 or 7. You know, like he likes to be aggressive, but I don't think in necessarily always the cheesiest of ways. And he definitely knows how to take a 3rd base, how to take a 4th base, even though he's going to be focused on a lot more around aggression, what he's going to be doing.
A lot of what Snoot was doing when it came to his Shenzhen games was trying to be aggressive himself to try and stop the Protoss before they were getting up to stuff. But of course, those were two different Protoss. Those were two Protoss in Classic and Rain that did look oh so powerful during those days.
It's interesting, by the way, the build of Jim. He took one single gas first. Fully seeing that there was no gas from Snoot, he knew that there is no reason he needs to quickly wall off at his natural. So he's just going to take that gas a little bit later here in his case. In the main, where Snoot is going to be delaying those gases himself. I really hope that Jim plays it, I would say, like, you know, not committing on 2 bases and then goes into a 3rd base, and that we see Snoot doing the build that I talked about with the Hydralisk, and then a bunch of Mutalisk, and then the +2 missile attacks mass Hydralisk, because I think it's really hard to stop, in particular the first time you play against it. You know, like, in my case, I think that I've had a lot of time to kind of think about how to counter it, and next time I play against it, I will do a lot better, but I feel like the first time you play against it, it's really hard to read into what's happening properly, that I feel like you're going to lose almost every single time. And in this case, Jim's going to drop down a robo here in the corner of his base. This pylon was a big indicator. He wanted to maybe put something over there.
Yeah, rarely you actually see one there, and it was actually spotted at that pylon's position. So technically, if Jim is reading, if Snoot is reading into that, he might be able to come back in later. But for Snoot, sat around 1,500 points at the moment in WCS. There is still a shot that he could make BlizzCon, and we all know that Snoot is pretty tenacious about results, and we all know that he is hungry for it. So it's going to be very interesting to watch and see how the remainder of the year is going to develop here for a non-Korean hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Jim, though, well, what does he want to go here for with this? Usually when you get sentries like this early on, it's going to be a prism rather than quick immortals that you go for. And in this case, nope. It's going to be an immortal started pretty quickly here by Jim. This not getting spotted by Snoot here. He's probably still a little bit suspicious of what's happening here right now, because he knows that from somebody like Jim, it can be really tough to hold this kind of attack. So Snoot, I feel like a lot of the time, if like he had spotted something a lot more standard, you know, like both gases on natural already being taken, and just if he was playing someone that he knows likes to take a 3rd base and go into +2 and Blink, I think he would have probably tried to rush for Hydralisk instead of dropping down the World Shrine like he is now. I think Snoot is kind of feeling probably what's happening right now already.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Zergs have played against this kind of build a lot of times. Roaches are already in production here. Jim is gearing up for something very aggressive with extra gateways being added on. He does see the lip of them with just a few of these Overlords. And from that is a big, big total of gates. I think we're about 7 or 8 gates now. 7 or so, I think.
Yeah. I think Snoots, he's read this very well, because also usually he gets a spore blind, because he doesn't like to sacrifice his Overlord near the Protoss base. It's like a very specific thing to him. So usually he just kind of like drops a few spores, like one in the natural, one in the 3rd base, and he's like, okay, if there is an Oracle, I'm going to be completely safe. DT, same thing. But in this case, he didn't even do that. He was so sure that this was going to be some kind of ground attack that he said, I don't even need to drop down these spores. I'm just going to mass units, and whichever attack it is that's coming for me, I'm going to make sure that I can defend it with enough army. And I mean, we already see Snoot at 100 supply against 68, so I think he's in a pretty good position to potentially hold this. Like the sentry count as well is not high at all. Mothership Core was made pretty late, and you want to attack as soon as possible with this, so I think it's going to be one-time warp that Jim's going to have to work with.
Yeah, and that might leave him in a bit of a bad spot. I mean, it's going to be difficult here going up against a Snoot who is very well prepared for something like this with the amount of units that he's actually got coming out. As for now, we just need to bide our time and wait for a moment here, as we do have a few of our observers that are going to drop, and then we will be getting right back into the game. But
not the most important one, though. Funka is still with us.
oh, thank God. Oof. That is close. That is close for sure. But it looks like they are dropping, and we will be getting back into the game right now. So let's jump back on in here to game number 1 on Coda between Snoot and Jim. And already Jim is moving out. Lings are going to be able to spot that pretty soon.
If Snoot could bait some force fields, he'd be in a great position to start defending this around his natural and third base. He's got no crease spread, but he's got so many units. He's actually going to set up here for an attack from behind with some of his roaches, which already could do a lot of damage, because this is just before Jim starts warping in more and more stalkers here, and his firepower is going to increase. So if Snoot was to engage now, even though he's going to lose a lot of roaches and links, if he can trade against these sentries...
Yeah, the roaches are getting really up close to this, and he's going to be able to focus down some of those sentries very, very quickly. That is a lot of investment here from Jim going down the pan. With the links even getting onto the Immortals as well, there's no more force fields to be able to shut those off. He might be able to get a kill or two. It doesn't look like fully, but there you go. He actually has to pick them up and save them, and Snoot has completely thwarted this attack.
Yeah, and both of the Immortals that were there as well for Jim, they are very low on hit points. Behind this, we got 28 Zerglings on the way. I wouldn't be surprised if Snoot just went back into droning up. He's dropping down the Hydra, then fully knowing that there is really not much follow-up to this. You either do a 2-base Colossus, or you take a 3rd base and you keep on massing Immortals and maybe try to go into Blink. But in this case, Jim didn't even have a 4th gas. He's in so much trouble. Even rebuilding his sentry count is going to be so hard. Having saved his Immortals, he's nice, but I don't think it matters all that much in this situation.
They're going to be so weak if they ever get focused down through to the shields, and look how close they are to actual death.
Oh, what was
Lings decide to sacrifice themselves there momentarily.
They did on their own.
They willingly gave themselves up for ire or something. I'm not sure what was going on there. That was a bit weird. But regardless, Snoot is in a great position. 63 workers. His economy's looking fantastic.
Yeah, across 3 bases as well. He's just going to be taking more extractors here, building up his gas economy. And behind this, like I said, you can't really transition out of this. Usually you either try and take a 3rd base somehow. It's probably one of the worst choices, actually, or keep on doing a 2-base, either with more Immortal and Sentries, which usually is probably the number 1 thing you want to try and do, or going into Colossus. But in this case, Snoot is so confident that he even drops down Infestation Pits and Evo Chamber already, even though all he really needs is mass units. If he gets force fielded, they're dangerous.
Yeah, the force fields are such the linchpin. These roaches, yes, sacrificed, but if you look at how this army composition here from Jim, there's 0 stalkers there.
Yeah.
So every time this army gets poked at, zealots may die off in open areas. It's absolutely up to the force fields to make this work for Jim somehow.
Snoot is going to wait basically forever down this ramp for Jim to move down to finally engage into him, but he actually lets him move down without setting up the pre-concave. I don't think it matters, though.
Yeah, the army is just too huge here, I think, for Snoot. He's trying to come in on the right-hand side. The force fields have actually been pretty fantastic here for Jim to keep things behind, but there's no more zealots to buffer for this army.
A lot of those units from Snoot are not really attacking right now, so he definitely needs to pull back and try and regroup a little bit more, and then he's going to have hell this. Even pulling some drones here is not a mistake, because you know that the Protoss on 2 base is very low on economy, so even if you lose, like, say, 15 drones from that 3rd base, and then you end up holding more comfortably because of it, then you have won the game here by Snoot, because then you can re-drone up and you're going to be in a great position after killing the entire Protoss army.
More roaches and hydras in production here, just trying to get out as many as possible, set themselves up in this concave as quickly as possible. And with all of the zealots dead from before, there's not really too many force fields left, but he will be able to land a few here to stop this trickle of Zerg moving forward.
Yeah. So much for rating Jim as a 6 on a cheeser scale. He was definitely a 10 this game.
he's doing what he can at the moment, and for a Protoss, usually this never ends. This is do or die, basically. He will stick around at the front for a while.
It's funny how Jim took another gas, by the way, but never mind it up until now. He just started resaturating this. Probably thinking he needed more minerals, I guess. And this time around, Snoot, he just has to wait until Jim starts moving down this ramp and then engage into him. And usually Jim will have to pull back and will try to engage up that ramp, but then you just pull back as the Zerg as well. But the supply difference is starting to be massive, Kylais.
Yeah, it is. It really is. 140 in armor supply against 70 some at the moment. And he's even opening the back rocks on the left-hand side here so that he can actually do something with that. And even if he wanted to take a 3rd base, creep is being spread at that location anyway. So Snoot just going to lay out the welcome mat and say, come on in, Jim. It'll be a fun time.
It's going to be almost impossible for Jim to get a good fight here. You look at his zealots. They're already in the middle of his army. They're going to be blocking these Immortals and Stalkers.
Warp Prism goes down. That means the Immortals are going to be a little less safe here when they go into this engagement.
Snoot already having an Evo, is getting some upgrades as well. He remade the Infestation Pit here, I think. Oh, he actually lets him go down. With his force fields.
Yeah, actually going to try and cut some of this off here. The Hydralisks on the left-hand side are already doing quite a lot of work, especially with the Zealots pushing up against it. The force fields weren't negating too much damage at all, and Snoot is going to overwhelm. There's not enough force fields to be able to deal with this. And that will be game number 1, going over to Liquid Snoot.
Solid. I think definitely one of the better words we can use to qualify here this performance and game in game number 1 on Coda out of Snoot. He really seemed to know what was going to come for a very long time. It's interesting, because usually, like I said, Snoot is the guy that won't sacrifice an Overlord and that will blindly get spores.
Yeah.
But I guess maybe because of his opponent's image, he was like, I guess a lot of the time here is going to be either a gateway attack or robo stuff, only robo stuff. There's not going to be any risk of kind of Stargate or even like tricky Dark Templars, which you can always get, it seems like. And in this case, not getting a spore was a great choice because that was more drones that were mining minerals, which he needed to get as many units as he made for the defense.
All right, well, we are going to go to a short break, ladies and gents. And when we are back, we will have game number 2 here from the World Championship Series between Liquid Snoot and Jim. Time to get into game number 2 here between Snoot and Jim. As Snoot looks to put himself on a good road here in Season 3. It's very, very important for him to try and collect as many points as possible if he wants to keep himself in the BlizzCon runnings. So we're going to go to Iron Fortress here for game number 2, Todd.
Yeah, the panel touched on how it can be difficult to take a third base here, in particular as Protoss. And Pig quickly told us about how he thinks that, when you have somebody as aggressive as Jim on a map like this, that's even less reason to try and basically go for a third base. So we'll see. Definitely could be the ultimate mind game to properly go for the third base. The thing is, it always gets spotted so easily by the Zerg player. So maybe Jim, he's got another one of those builds here that he wants to try for. Snoot so far has looked pretty good in the defense of, I think, whatever you want to throw at him. The previous game, the read that he got was really, really nice. And I could definitely see the same thing happening if Jim was to try for another aggressive 2-base build.
Now let's get into it. Game number 2 here between our Chinese player Jim and, of course, Mr. Norwegian Snoot, as we have spawning up to the top right-hand corner. It will be our blue Protoss representing Invictus Gaming. It is Jim.
Trying to bring the levels of cringe Apollo-like on the casting desk.
Oh no, poor guy. Anyway, spotted at the bottom left-hand corner, we have our red Zerg representing Team Liquid. It is Snoot. He's got his lightsaber, man. He's ready. He's ready for the evil Protoss to try and do him wrong. But we'll see. We'll see.
Paradise. You cheeky guy.
That's how I categorize it. It's a fine.
Jim, actually, last game I already thought it was pretty interesting that he went for Nexus first, but I feel like against someone less like Snoot, he's probably one of the safest opponents that you can do it against, because Snoot will almost always, on any map, open with a pull first. And as I say that,
Dun, dun, dun.
guess what, Stodds? Wrong. To be honest, Snoot, 99% of the time will be opening with a safe pull first. He actually have picked up, or he definitely picked up on the fact that last game, Jim went for a Nexus first and didn't even wall off at his natural for a very long time. You know, those gateways, I think they went down at like, what, 6:30, 7 minutes?
Very
at
late.
his natural, because he made the robo before even. So he's maybe hoping that Jim does something foolish, as in the same build as last game, in which case he will die to the speedlings of Snoot.
Try and exploit him early on. And that's something that Snoot has really been mixing into his repertoire recently. Obviously, when you think of Snoot as a Zerg player, you think big, strong macro focus, big, strong mid games, even into late game. But he has been working in some earlier stuff recently. And that, as a StarCraft player, having every tool at your disposal is a scary thing to play against.
Yep. Build otherwise, though, Jim did not go for the same thing as last game. He opened with here one single gateway in his main, actually mined from the gas and went Cybercore. So usually when you do this, you cancel the Zealot, but it looks like right now Jim won't necessarily be canceling that, and he's about to drop down another pylon. Oh, he was checking for the Overlord if he was there already, but still does not cancel the Zealot there. So I guess that's going to be his scouts, as well as a probe that he went and sent out. Or he's checking the other location where there could be an Overlord here spotting him. So I think right now he already knows that he's probably cross-map. Still going to be checking bottom right-hand side quickly, though.
Yeah, seems so. More Zerglings still in production here for Snoot whilst that hatchery does go down. And they are making their way across here.
Yeah, actually, usually here you lose the Nexus a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But since Jim let the Zealot finish, there is a chance he can hold somehow. Without a wall, though, it's going to be pretty tough. I wonder if he will start a Stalker or a Sentry, actually, behind this.
Sees his 4 coming along. They're already on the Nexus here. The Zealot, thankfully, for Jim is here. Likewise, the Mothership Core can help out a lot, and he's throwing down gateways, knowing that there is their extra potential to come and do more damage here with this. He sees even more Zerglings.
Speed's about to finish, and Mornings are going to start streaming, and some of those have already died, though. Jim might be able to wall off here with another pylon, leaving the Zealot in the wall. Oh, it doesn't start an additional pylon to wall quickly enough.
Speedlings are here, so they will be able to try and bust through this. They're even going to go from this pylon on both sides here, knowing that more Speedlings could be easily along. He's going to try and deny the probes from getting down there to be able to do anything about walling off once again. The Mothership Core is working away at these Zerglings, but Zerglings alone, oh, they really want that sentry, so got to be careful about that.
And Jim is now walled off and a natural with his Zealot there as well. He's got a sentry in the main. He's going to be able to get rid of the Zergling, send that to the natural. So he's defended, it looks like. Snoot behind this. He's still getting links somehow. He still wants to come into this. He wants to try and take down the wall. The sentry's going to get surrounded in the main.
Oh, if he can kill that off, that would be fantastic. Even if he forces the force field out, that's great, because now he can't throw that down in this main wall. And there's no more sentries actually in production at the moment for Jim.
This is a disaster here.
Oh no, it's going to break through.
Oh, I really like the wall off here with the probes. He's going to re-get this pylon.
Goes back into it as well.
Oh, he's going to get broken all over. Probes are going to try to wall off, but they're too late.
They're back in towards the main here. There's still more Zerglings. There's tons of Zerglings on the way. He needs another pylon. He needs a wall.
Yeah, warp gate finish. I think he might want to try and get a sentry here to defend at the wall. Yeah, he does just that there, Jim.
He could attack it from both sides.
The photon overcharge is about to end, though. I think Snoot's just going to move down the ramp with the links that he has up in the main and attack from two sides. As photon overcharge ends, Snoot needs to do more. The walker count is even here. It's 18 to 18. I don't like this swap in here. That's going to die very quickly.
Well, economy was limited a little bit here for Jim while that was going on. He's going to go for this pylon once again. The Leans are going to move down there, trying to get themselves on a sentry. Don't quite get the opportunity.
There is force fields available.
Yeah.
These Leans won't get in.
No, they're just going to be sacrificed here. He's gone back to droning behind this. And the force field will be thrown out.
Wow, so some great defense here out of Jim.
Very well done. He needs to wall off again, though.
Yeah.
Because that force field's about to dissipate, and he does have another one available.
He knows that the economy of Snoot is really weakened by this as well, and Jim already has a probe across the map that's just kind of sitting there. So if he wanted, he could just like rebuild his probe count a little bit and then do 3-gate pressure with hidden Zealots over there if he wanted to.
Surely that's what we need to see from Snoot now, though. He needs to be able to sniff out if there was a probe that got out, where is it, and how is he able to shut down? It's actually going to come in now and get the scout, which eventually will be found.
That's a big tell here, that he does not want to be as aggressive.
Yeah.
Actually, he's just going to check the third base here. His Jim wants to know exactly where he's at economically. Spots the third hatchery. But Snoot,
It's found.
with his eagle eye, spotted the probe on the minimap probably, and just going to be able to come back here and kill that off. So, situation at this point is 42 drones to 30 probes. Snoot is in a, I guess, great position. Even though this was defended, Jim lost a little bit too much, I think.
Lost 10 workers in total during all of that.
Which is not a big number, but during all of this, he wasn't making more probes.
Yeah,
whereas
exactly.
Snoot very easily could go into more drones himself.
Yeah. How does the resources lost actually look here at the moment? 1,000. Okay, so slightly even, of course, but Snoot has been mining more. He's now got his third base up. He'll be rocketing up to 60 workers and then probably just sitting around on that for a while to deal with whatever Jim is going to throw at him.
Look at Snoot's read as well. He's like, I'm playing against Jim. I did a lot of damage. He's kind of stuck on two base with a low economy. What is he likely to do? Well, probably some kind of 7 or 8 gate. Drops down the roach coronary and he's already getting roaches.
Yeah.
He's not even going to wait until he sees something. And in this case, there was even another gateway dropped here. So it's going to be the good old 8 gates here by Jim. A complete all-in.
Wow.
Snoots, he made quite a few drones. He's on 57 against 39. But as long as he only makes units from now, I think he should be okay.
And where's the probe to actually help this warping in?
In the middle of the sentries.
Oh, okay. So very important that he's able to get those pylons going up slowly throughout all of this. Roaches are continuing to pile on out here, as is the layer. He would love to have roach speed against this. Won't have time for the initial assault, though.
Yeah, Jim is going to need some of the best force fields of his life here to somehow make this work. You should never underestimate this amount of sentry. That's the thing. Even though Snoot's getting a lot of roaches right now and there isn't that many stalkers, it's 9 zealots, 4 stalkers, 6 sentries against 17 roaches without speed. But Lair's about to finish.
Yeah. And that's the problem with
And
this.
remember that Snoot already has speed. He can reinforce with a lot of speed links into the fight.
That is true. He doesn't have that many stalkers in this composition, so it's up to the Zealots to actually get pinned up against this. Here, as we go into Snoot's first-person view now, he's going to bring those reinforced roaches to the front here. Gets a few of them caught in that, though, against the Zealots. This is potentially a good opportunity here for Jim to try and get something done, but the roaches are all over the place,
and he's out of energy. He's got no more energy.
Oh, no.
Gets surrounded by the Zerglings. Snoot's getting so many units to try and stop this. Those sentries are going to start dying.
There's so many roaches left over. So many roaches, not enough Zealots to be able to buffer those at all. And that is going to be huge death going down onto this Protoss army. Not really much you can do about it at all. The roaches just push up against these Stalkers, and you can see him focusing down some of those as well before. But now he knows that the numbers are overwhelming. The Mothership core goes down. That's going to be GG. And Snoot will be victorious here up against Jim. And that is the 2-0, moving him on to the winners match here in our second to last group of round 32.
Every viewer was victorious here. We saw the victory screen because it was first person, guys.
Yeah.
Get it?
That was fantastic. I was enjoying that a lot.
I almost felt like I was half as good as him for a second.
Almost. He's quite the wizard when it comes to being able to take these engagements, and just the sheer amount of power and pressure he had in that kind of concave. You can throw down all the force fields you want, but when you're a Protoss caught in the middle there, taking the engagement there, you spend all those force fields almost instantly.
It's funny because, like, looking at Jim Sorry's point of view, when he started force fielding those roaches, he was probably like, hell yeah, a few free roaches.
Yeah.
And then he saw the other chunk of army coming from behind. He was probably like, oh God, no, please no. And then there was nothing he could do already. Just a perfect read by Snoot, which is, if you're Jim here, I don't think you're going to be very happy with how it just went, because you just played against somebody that's completely soul-read you. I'm not sure you know what to call it, but like completely saw through you and saw what you were going to do with minimal scouting. I didn't see any overload being sacrificed here. Snoot just from scouting at the front, seeing like a few sentries and stuff, he was like, that's probably going to be a gateway all-in follow-up, right? Makes a bunch of units and defense. And same thing in his first game.
Very well done there by Snoot. He moves on to the deciders match here for our second to last group of the WCS round of 32. But for now, let's head over to the analysis desk.
Snoot, son of Asgard, takes the first victory of the day, 2-0 versus Jim. And as you pointed out, you know, he's well practiced in the defensive Zerg style, and it shone through for him today.
Yeah, it looks like he went into that really well mentally prepared, and you know, it looked like he kind of anticipated exactly what was coming his way, and he had the right answers for it. It was really clean, and I think that's one of those games where it shows, or a series which shows preparation. And it shows the preparation has worked exactly as planned.
And that's a great confidence boost for the rest of the day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, going up against Jim, it's a kind of hit or miss series. Like, you never know how well he's going to play and how well you're going to be able to play against kind of that volatile style that he does play. So the fact that he's able to pick up that easy 2-0 win, in my opinion, he's got to be feeling good going into the next series.
All right, well, we do have a replay for you guys back at home, and it's map number 1 when the immortal push came and Snoot was able to deal with it. So, boys, take it away.
All right, so Jim, of course, was going for some fast aggression. Now, Snoot, he was kind of telegraphing, anticipating this, and you could tell from his build order because he stopped at 55 drones. He spotted the lack of the third gas from Jim, so he kind of knew there was something coming his way. He wasn't sure what, so he said, you know what, I'm going to go for a big Roach Ling army. I'm going to delay my lair, delay any sort of tech units, and notice there, the Zerglings see the Protoss army coming forward, and he's already splitting these Roaches around the north side. What he wants to do is he wants to get on top of this army from multiple sides before extra sentries warp in, before more Stalkers and Zealots warp in to buffer for these Immortals. And look at that, just closing in from both sides, catching him before the additional warp-ins get there.
And what can you really do as a Protoss when you get caught off like this, Sam?
You can recall. That's the only thing you can do. If you start losing your sentries and using all of those force fields, you're going to be in a completely dire situation going in towards the next stage of this attack. So the fact that he actually lost all of his sentries there, all of his energy, having to pick up those Immortals and retreat back to his base, is never a good sign to be in on the Protoss side.
All right, thank you very much, boys. Great look at that replay, and it just kind of explains how well he was prepared. He knew exactly what was coming, he knew exactly how to deal with it. Do you think that Snoot's going to continue that trend for the rest of the day? He knows his opponents, they're not as strong per se as Jim, or not meant to be as strong. You think he's going to be going in a very similar way?
I think it's Snoot's style. He's the master of preparation. A lot of other players look up to him because he's the guy. He'll find the hidden VODs. He'll find the ladder accounts of his opponents. And he's just so smart about it, making those adjustments with his build. So I think whoever does go into that winners match against him has to watch out for that. But they're probably already going into it, maybe anticipating that, maybe expecting it. And they may throw some curveballs, but knowing Snoot, he's kind of that rock solid guy. If he's not sure what you're going to do, he's going to swap into that defensive mode, and we're going to see a very different style to what he showed here against Jim.
All right, thank you very much, gentlemen. We are going to go to a very quick break, and when we return, Hitman makes his debut in the World Championship Series, going up against the youngster, Laser.